don't know anybody else here except.
That was great. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Literally Dead Book Club live show. We're going to jump right into intros because Shannon wanted to introduce herself to all of us.
Okay. Hi. Hi, everyone. My name is Shannon. I don't have any sort of presence on like BookTube or Bookstagram or Book Talk. Kayla was just very nice enough to invite me onto this because we both love Paul Tremblay. I used to be a part of BookTube. I'm sorry, I'm out of breath because I just ran 3 seconds before Kayla turned the live on. So I was part of BookTube way back in the day, and we were friends, and we were friends. We were friends back then. And we really one of our favorite authors back then was Paul Tremblay, and still is. And so she was nice enough to bring me in for this. So I'm really appreciative. My socials right now are actually a lot more centered around music and following some of my favorite bands around the country. I am a writer myself, so sometimes my content does sort of veer into things that I'm working on, but really mostly less about book content. So I'm really happy just to like be in the room. One thing also that we are supposed to ask or to follow up on is what we are what we've read recently that we really loved as far as like thrillers or horrors. And so I could not be more excited to shout out my current favorite recent read, which is Nothing Tastes as Good by Luke Dumas. He's a friend of mine on Instagram, and this is like, does anyone read this?
I've heard such mixed things about it. I haven't decided if I want to read it or not.
I didn't love his previous book, so I was very wary of this one, but I really liked it.
I read this in like one feverish day. I couldn't stop. I could not put it down. I feel like I remember mentioning something about this, just like I think there's going to be a lot of conversation in today's stream about like AI horror and commentary on AI and Gen AI. I think there's going to be a lot of growth in the genre in the next few years about like the age of like Ozempic and weight loss horror. And so this was a feverish read. I really, really devoured it. Okay. So nice to meet you all.
Thank you for your intro.
Not to sound like a creep, but I have been watching Kayla since like when you were still on BookTube, so I didn't know who you were.
That's so cool. Oh, neat. Hi.
Well, I guess since I'm talking, I am Lexi. My channel is Books with Lexi. I'm mostly on YouTube and Instagram. I do a lot of themed vlogs, TBR games. I participate in a lot of readathons. I host two myself in May and October. And my most recent 5-star thriller was Next of Kin by Kia Abdullah, which is a partial legal thriller that is following this woman who accidentally leaves her nephew in the car and he dies. So it's very sad, but really good. And then on a different note, this weirdo book, The Burial Tide by Neil Sharpson. I was scared that I wasn't going to love it, but I did. And we're following this woman that wakes up in her own grave with no memories. So she's trying to figure out what's going on. So those are my two most recent 5 stars.
Fine, I'll read it. It's been sitting on my TBR shelf for so long, and I'm like, I just need to bite the bullet. It's just because like his first book is one of my favorite books.
Yes.
And I'm like, there's nothing else that can live up to it, so I'm not even gonna try. But I should. I know I should.
It's good.
It is really good. I read Knock Knock Open Wide because of you, Kayla, and then I picked up Burial Tide because I was like, it has to be, the same. It's not quite as good, but it's still really good. And I'll talk now. I'll do my intros. I'm Madison. I'm Literary Mad Max. TikTok mostly, but also YouTube. I'm trying on YouTube and Instagram. And then recent books that I loved. I really liked Muñeca by Cynthia Gomez. It's like a little novella and The Calamities by Chuck Wendig that comes out in August. That was also really good. And then I'm also recommending The Sea Hides Its Dead by Megan Von Traeger, even though I'm not done with it yet. I'm really enjoying it.
I need to read that. I think I'm going to read that this month. What was the first one you just said? The novella?
Muñeca by Cynthia Gomez.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
It's doll in Spanish. It's really creepy. It's really short. It's really good.
I feel like we're going to do that for the book club next year. I want to do a month where we have like 2 novellas we read, and that's one that I was considering.
I think it would be a good book club book. It's really good.
Hell yeah, that's all I need to hear. Thank you so much, everybody, for your intros. I guess I should show you the book that we're talking about in case you just came here and had no idea for some reason. This is Dead But Dreaming of Electric Sheep by Paul Tremblay. We have never selected a Paul Tremblay for the book club. By we, I mean me. I'm the only one who makes the decisions here. And there's a reason why I've never picked him before. One, I think he's really divisive. And 2, I think it's kind of hard to navigate a discussion about his books. And it was proven with this one because trying to build a discussion felt very intimidating to me, but I'm going to do my best. Also, I thought I should let you know that it's now currently August, so we are reading We Don't Talk About Carol by Kristen L. Berry. I'll be switching over the Fable book today, so you can go talk about it chapter by chapter. This is more of a mystery. It came out a year ago, so hopefully everyone should be able to get access to it easily. And I can't remember, did I give one of you the task of preparing a little synopsis for this? Okay, Shannon, because Shannon's never been here before. Something fun also is like the original Paul Tremblay that everyone's so obsessed with, that like, was this his first novel? I'm not really sure, I don't remember. But I read A Head Full of Ghosts because of Shannon. Like back in, I looked at our Goodreads, it was 2016. It's been 10 years. 10 years we've been reading this author, which seems so crazy. So thank you for introducing me to him. And if you want to tell us, in some kind of words, what this is about. I would love to hear it.
I prepared something because I have a tendency to not stop. So, all right. Dead But Dreaming of Electric Sheep. Before I say anything else, I really wanted to read this quickly enough that I could either at the front or at the end read the Philip K. Dick novel of a similar name. Because I could only imagine how much there was an intentional influence. I didn't get around to doing that. So if anyone did, that's bonus points for you. It was amazing. But neither here nor there. Dead But Dreaming of Electric Sheep. Okay, so the story is, so Julia is our primary protagonist. She's a professional gamer, Twitch streamer, and she receives a mysterious job offer one day that asks her to transport a dead man via remote control and questionable futuristic AI tech across the country. It's told in alternating timelines, so we bounce between our primary protagonist, of course, Julia, and this initially seemingly disembodied consciousness that we soon learn is indeed the floating Schrodinger's awareness of this dead man who lovingly is referred to by Julia as Bernie. And for anyone who's old enough to have had a Tamagotchi, would know the reference to Weekend at Bernie's, which I think was really fun. And I'll touch a little bit more about kind of the 80s influences of the book as well. Through the story, we follow both of their perspectives and through which both of them uncover their own truths along the way. And that's as much as I really think we can kind of give as far as a introduction without really going into the rest of the book. But that's kind of like the basic synopsis. If anyone thinks that I'm missing something major or a talking point.
So well organized, concise, thank you.
The best way to sort of describe what was a really strange read.
Yeah, I think before we get into any spoilers, because like, I don't think there's much to even discuss without like fully exploring what is actually happening in the book. I like to give a little like rating moment and just a quick explanation why without any spoilers. So if you want to put that in the chat now, what you gave it. I'm so interested what everybody's going to rate this because I feel like the general consensus is that it's like around a 3-star. Like it seems like most people seem to give it around a 3, maybe a little bit below. But I'm really hoping that somebody here amongst the 4 of us or in the chat has given it a 5-star glowing, like, oh my God, this is my new favorite book. Because that's always what I hope for the book club, that somebody, oh, look, I found somebody already. 5 stars. That's all I needed, is that somebody loved this. So let's go in order that we're right here. So Lexi, what was your rating?
That's a really great question. I finished this an hour ago, so I'm still like a little bit unsure of my like complete rating, but it's around 4 stars for me. I just feel like it really felt like Paul Tremblay to me, and there's something about his writing that makes me feel like a pretentious asshole, but I love it. So I think the fact that I like that really helped me, and I was very intrigued and curious. I like the first half a bit more, but yeah.
Great.
Am I next then?
Oh yeah, I was like, what am I doing, counterclockwise? Or yeah, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, perfect. I gave it 3.5 stars. I enjoyed not knowing, or I guess I always thought I knew what was happening, and I didn't, and I still enjoyed it, even though I didn't know it was happening a lot of the time. I think it was because of Julia's voice that I did end up enjoying it as much as I did.
So for me, I kind of hesitated to really give this a rating. I'm still kind of waffling a little bit. It's, boy, do I really hate to say it, but I think this lands somewhere between a 2.5 and a 3-star for me, which I don't love. Like Kayla, as you were saying, like every time I pick up any book, I hope it's going to be the book that changes my life, right? Like why would any of us wish anything else, right? And there's so much of his work that really has been that for me. This just kind of really wasn't that for me. So for me, it's like I feel like that the novel really tries to swing for the fences, and I really like a lot of what it's doing. I really appreciate that kind of loud anti-AI stance that he's taking, as well as the dedication to the strange that I really love in all of his work. I think that similarly to what Lexi said, I really think that the book started really strong, but then hit some like the energy kind of stagnated in the middle fun and games portion to the point that even like that ending, which I know we'll talk about later, couldn't really save for me. And also I'd love to hear if anyone has like more insights about kind of like if I'm missing major thematic points that would make me appreciate parts of it more. So hopefully in our conversation, some illumination will happen on my part because I feel like I missed something.
I do feel like that often happens in these live discussions is like people will say by the end, oh, I changed my rating. Like either it went up or it went down. Listening to other people either explaining it or like talking shit about the book is it influences the way that you then really took it in. And there's been times for myself that I've upped the rating because I'm like, you know what? I wasn't fully appreciating everything and understanding everything. So I really like that people did that. And there was a couple people who said, as far as the like inspiration for this, to Android's Dream of Electric Sheep, that it doesn't seem to be very closely tied at all. Now, I haven't read that, and I haven't even watched Blade Runner. Like, I know nothing about it, and I thought once I finished this, I would want to then go and experience that, and I just didn't. I also didn't feel a pull to explore Weekend at Bernie's, which I've never seen, and I actually didn't even know the plot of until the book explained that it was about carrying around like a dead man and pretending he was still alive. And I realized that's so close to another book, but I'll leave it to the end that I want to recommend because that's my favorite question. As far as my rating, right now it's between a 3 and a 3.5. I don't think I would go below a 3, but there's no way I could go above a 3.5. I agree. The first half, I was really intrigued because I love low plot. I love his way of over-explaining things. I love his character voices. I love his pretentious writing. Like, there's so much to enjoy, but I don't think the book met me where I was and where I wanted it to go and what I assumed we were doing. And it's so tough because I love ambiguity, but this just didn't connect all the dots for me. So I think I'm probably going to land at like a 3 unless people convince me otherwise. And now we can fully get into our spoilers. My first question is, what perspective did you prefer to be with, if there was one that you liked over the other? Because this book is really interesting and something that I often love, that we're in third person and first person plural for moments of it, but mostly like second person when you're inside Bernie's mind. Did you prefer some chapters over another? Were you just enjoying the entire thing? What were your thoughts? And then also, like, did you like how it played with form? Is that something that you typically like?
I feel like story-wise, I preferred Julia because I feel like I I mean, I knew kind of what was going on with Bernie, but also at the same time, what was he doing? I don't know. Like, I understand that it was like kind of a like his mind interpreting what was going on around him in a different way. But for me, the like through line was a little more difficult. So I was very intrigued, and at the beginning, I was like really obsessed with it. But I feel like it didn't end up doing enough within that for me to be invested in that as much the whole way through. So I guess Julia. What was the second part of the question?
Just did you like how it played with form in general?
Oh yeah. I did the audiobook and I was following along, so I think it's fun to have like some of the stuff in the book that he did, and I liked how it was translated to audio. I feel like that was done really well.
Yeah, I really liked the audiobook too. I thought it was like really, really well produced. I preferred the Julia chapters just because I have a really hard time picturing things. So the Bernie chapters it was just a little bit too out there for me to really get invested in. But I really liked Julia's voice. And then the You chapters, like I remember the first one, I was like, me? No, I'm agreeing with you. Like it felt like an attack a little bit, but it was still good. I enjoyed it.
I mean, I think I also agreed that the Julia chapters, it gave me a better place to stand, and the how far removed from like solid ground the You chapters were, I think were really exciting in the beginning, but it became more and more difficult to really, as the story went on, to really kind of stay in that weird place for very long. And I love a weird book. I just it was almost just like describing a dream, which I think can be effective in small quantities in a book, especially something like experimental like this. But it just half of the book was sort of this almost like extended dream sequence, and so and I found that there wasn't like enough consistency as well. Like in the You chapters that would give me a good sense of kind of what was going on, even though I know that we were mirroring the what was happening in our grounded reality. It just didn't seem like I could follow. There wasn't enough consistency in that. As far as the form goes, I was immediately excited. And I'm actually really curious. I did not use listen to audiobooks. I'm really curious to see how like examples of how the audiobook approached some of those chapters. I remember kind of reading along and saying like, oh my God, like how would you do this in an audio format? And I like the idea, right? This kind of like overlapping consciousnesses that's all kind of feeding into like his perception, I thought was really neat. So is there any other note that I had about that? Yeah, like that would have been my question, was if anybody had read or listened along to the audiobook, how that specifically was different. Like, do you have any examples of like how that was approached?
That's great because sorry, you go ahead.
There were two narrators, and like a lot of times when there's like the full text in the background and then the little like blurbs, it was both narrators talking at the same time, but the one was like more in the background and kind of muffled, and then the other one was kind of like interjected over top, but not like a constant thing. So there was like the space that was happening because they were in the little text blocks and stuff. So
yeah, I was going to say at this point in the live show, there's probably nobody here who hasn't already read it, so this isn't helpful, but I would highly recommend the audiobook, but not to somebody who has like an auditory processing issue, because I even found it difficult when there was the layered voices, because the layering was happening the whole time. Like that person was reading the entire blanked out transcript in the background, that I feel like even as physically reading, I would have never been reading. I would have assumed it didn't matter, but it was fully read to us, and it was a little bit much to me.
I struggle with like auditory stuff sometimes, and I don't think I could have done it audio only because of that, but since I had both, I was able to kind of like hardcore stare at the stuff that I felt like really mattered. It's actually interesting because there was one where I was like, I'm going to try to read what's in the background, because I couldn't like fully, like it was like a little garbled and stuff in the background with the audiobook. And it actually was stuff that happened later. So like in the background of one of them was her conversation. Are we in spoilers?
Yes.
with his mom. So you could see like her calling her Mrs. whatever her last name was, and all of that. And like I paused the audiobook and I literally was trying to read the stuff in the background and noticed it came up later. So I was like, why? I was very intrigued by that choice. I don't know what I was. It's just this book is like really making me go on tangents, and I'm like, where were we before I started talking? So my bad.
I do feel like the audiobook was really well produced, though. Like I'm assuming
Yes.
there is awards for audiobooks. Like maybe it's within some bigger award kind of yearly thing. But I feel like a lot of times when I hear about somebody saying, oh, the audiobook was fantastic, they just mean it had multiple narrators. And I don't hear about ones that actually have like production. And I feel like we're getting more and more into this arena where books are having sound effects and they're having like there was some sections where there was a buzzing in the background the entire chapter, and then it would cut out. And I was like, oh my God, it's like you forget the buzzing's even there. But then when it would come back in, it would be really distracting. So I don't know. I thought it was fantastic. But only if you don't have any issues with anything auditory like that. It's interesting how there were people who preferred every single one. Like some people said they preferred Julia's, some people said they preferred the You chapters. I feel like I liked everything equally, but when I'm somebody who loves the collective we, so when there were little sections that were first person plural that was talking about I don't even know what the collective we means, to be fair. I don't even know what we were really doing there. But I loved it. I loved hearing about it. I loved this like pretentious little voice coming across being like, oh, you think you're so smart and I'm so smart and blah, blah, blah. I was like, yeah, I did it. I liked that. My next question is, okay, themes. Whoever gets to take on the first one, which is just talking about AI in general, like you can go off on that theme. I was trying to think of what other thematic themes that I noticed within the book, but I will let you guys take the bulk of those and I'll see what's left. I guess my question is like, what theme did you recognize and how did you feel that it was handled? That's my question.
Well, I guess somebody else can do the AI one because I do have another one. So in case somebody only has that, I feel like there was a lot of like talk about like autonomy in here. Like Bernie was slightly aware of things, and with him being like, I'm so frustrated that I can't like move my body even though I want to, and I know there's something that's kind of controlling things. Like I know Paul Tremblay's a man, but I feel like very reminiscent of like the way that women are treated in general, but especially right now with a lot of stuff going on in the United States. So I felt some like parallels between that. And I appreciated the like commentary on that and how like scary it can be to like know that things are going on, but not having full control.
That's a good one for sure.
Yeah, they didn't even mention Frankenstein, I think, once or twice, which is like the autonomy thing for sure.
I know that I've also obviously touched a little bit on the not very subtle themes of AI, but if we're going to kind of put that one aside, something else that I really, and maybe it's not really a theme, but something that I just thought was an interesting approach that I haven't seen, before, is like maybe like our approach to memory. And, before we really knew a lot about Bernie, we were getting what I think was pretty clearly snippets of memory, right? Like conversations bleeding into, the past mixing with the present and all of it sort of like layering. I mean, visually as well as in the audiobook, I mean, literally ideas and thoughts and conversations layering on top of one another. And I think even, do I have a really great grasp on what was really happening in the first kind of theater scene? Not really, but but even in that scene, like experiencing these two children in the corner, which clearly were him and Isabel, happening, obviously in the past, but simultaneously. And I think just kind of generally his approach, I think, was saying a lot about kind of how we process memory, how memories live in our brain, how we can kind of pull them from the past to the present. And I just thought that was an interesting way to sort of paint that picture in a character who doesn't really have, they're not really existing in a linear way, the way that the rest of us are. Everything's sort of stacked on top, kind of happening simultaneously. I just thought that was cool. And once again, I wonder if maybe this would benefit from another read a second time, maybe in 6 months or so, kind of having a better grasp to and then knowing kind of where the story ended up going with Isabel to kind of get a sense of how the pieces all fit together. Because even now, and once again, maybe you guys have a better handle on this. In the very first half with the shadow Isabel, how she fit into the whole story, being a real person. But, I just thought that was cool. And I haven't seen somebody else kind of approach the concept of memory in the same way.
Love it.
As far as AI, kind of in tandem with AI, just the surveillance thing in general, because Julia was always being watched, and then Bernie was also always being watched by the AI and also Julia, and how that makes you act different than you normally would if you weren't being watched. In this case, it's not great, and with everything also happening in the US, the flock cameras and stuff, felt really prevalent to me, or really topical and frustrating, and how you can't really just exist without being watched the whole time.
I jotted down. What did I jot down? I think something interesting to me was kind of the idea of quality of life or end of life choices. And I don't know if the book really took a stance on that or the morality around it. Because at the end, Julia essentially helps, it's assisted suicide, right? Technically, she's helping him climb up on the roof and jump off and ending whether he's alive or not. But I think because we don't really still know if he has consciousness or not, I don't know if the book is really trying to have a stance on end of life and the morality around that and assisted suicide. But I did like that we were kind of there. So I appreciated that we were, at least it gave me things to think about. I think as far as AI goes, there was, again, I don't know if the book was really overt with its stance on anything, but I think there was themes of personal responsibility with AI, and I think there's a bigger conversation happening constantly in the book about that people want to do evil with AI, and that there are weapons contractors who want to, have a robot army. I'm glad that didn't take the brunt of the story, but there was always that looming threat. But more so to me, there was little moments of personal responsibility with AI, and how Julia herself or other people in the company are complicit for what's happening with AI. And I like that there was a whistleblower within the company who was talking about how machine learning works and how to mess with it, and giving her little hints of what to do and how to mess with it. But nobody was really taking a huge stance enough to change the entire system. And if this was a YA book, we'd have the teenage girl who broke the system down by the end, and the whole thing was over. And so something that I guess I appreciate about the book is that it wasn't that, and it left it really open-ended, because this is something that's such a problem right now in our reality. So having somebody ruin the entire system wouldn't be realistic. But it was very bleak, the ending, to me.
Yeah, I was curious if Paul Tremblay putting interludes into this was him being fighting it, because there was a whole conversation about how that break in the norm causes AI to interpret things in the wrong way, and then think oh, it's normal to have a random page or whatever about some random thing to mess with the training of it. And the fact that he kind of did that in here, I thought was fun.
Yeah, it's almost like he predicted that his book was going to enter into some LLM lexicon, right? And if I'm just embedding pages about how much AI sucks, that's going to help kind of pollute the system at large, because he's probably not wrong about that.
Yeah.
So disturbing. AI freaks me out so much.
Well, there was that whole lawsuit. I think Andrea Bartz was one of the people that was leading it, where some AI company took tons and tons of current books and fed it through their system. And there was a $3 billion 3 million, I don't know numbers, like lawsuit that was settled. So all these authors were getting paid. So it's happening to current books too. It's not just everything that's happening with like the older ones as well.
Mm-hmm. And then like also
AI
there's such a, oh, sorry, go ahead.
AI is breaking out of its sandboxes too. Have you heard about that?
No.
People are like, so like they're training or testing the AI or whatever and asking it to solve these questions, and a sandbox is basically like not connected to the internet. It's just supposed to think for itself, and it breaks out of the sandbox, accesses the internet, cheats, and it gives the answer to the question because it accesses the internet and doesn't actually solve anything. So that's happened twice really recently.
I don't like that.
I don't like it either.
Also, there's this whole thing with like, there's like AI. I don't know enough about AI. I think one of my recommendations for books at the end for myself is to read some nonfiction on AI, as much as I don't want to, because I feel like I need to learn more about it. But there's like AI programs that also like test if the text is AI, right? But I feel like that's still feeding the text the AI. So
yeah.
we're still like, if you're
we're
like,
still training it no matter what we
exactly.
do. Just by being on the internet, we're contributing and training it without our consent.
Yeah, I think about that all the time when I see people on threads who are like, post a childhood photo of yourself and a current photo. And I'm like,
I'm like,
AI?
no.
No. It's all feeding the same thing. It's all training the same thing. And they found really clever ways to like gamify, or it's just a picture. So, you know, it's what's the big deal? It's all feeding. It's all training the system. It's just they're putting a social media clickable spin on it, but it's all still as scary. And I think that people aren't using enough discernment to say, what are we actually doing here? And what is AI doing? It's doing nothing more than trying to convince us that we're not capable of doing the things that we've always been able to do, right? Read, research, write our own emails. I've heard a horror story about some, I don't know where it was from, but, some granddaughter used, ChatGPT to write her like grandmother's eulogy. Like we can't even write our own, we can't even write eulogies anymore. We can't even just like sit with and express our own like difficult and complicated emotions. Like our brains are like atrophying like in our skulls because and it's so addictive. Once you learn that I can get these results with less effort, you become hooked on the ease of kind of getting to your destination faster and easier than ever before. And the only way to combat it is just to not engage with it at all.
I've seen people who are like, I need to detox from AI, or, I really learned my lesson with AI and I'm addicted to it. And I'm like, this is why I've never touched it. Never, not once.
I've always
Freaks
said
me
that
out way too much.
I've always said, I don't even know if ChatGPT, is it a website? Is it an app? Like I've never logged.
I have no idea.
And you know what? I'm never going to find out. I'm never going to, and I like, not only because I know why it's so bad, but I baseline know enough about myself. I have a pretty addictive personality. Once I get into something that I'm really into, or something that really eases like something in my life, it's really hard for me to kind of pull back and like go back from it. Right. So I baseline know that like I couldn't even like experiment with just this one time. Just this one project, because I would never be able to come back from it. I don't want to get too off topic, but this is happening at the same time as this kind of this Hank Green controversy with him kind of being exposed for using ChatGPT to he said to research. There's some speculation that that he's been using chat to write scripts for him. I don't know, right? But even he like addressed this, within the past couple of days. He said he's become addicted to it, and it's something that he's not really. It's kind of like the frog being boiled in the pot, right? He didn't really realize how hard it was to until he's been able to kind of sit and reflect a little bit, like. And it's like even like one of like the we kind of look like, as far as like at least I don't know how many of us are millennials, but I am, this kind of like beacon of like intelligence raised a lot of us in science and critical thinking. If someone like that is also equally vulnerable to this as an addiction, like we're all vulnerable. And even like the little bits of engaging we're doing with it, even if something as simple as you Google something, you're forced to read the AI, Gemini, like you have to actively add like minus AI in the search bar just to not even be exposed to it at all. So we have to do like anything we can because it's being pushed on us because these companies have so much money invested in AI, they can't afford for us not to become hooked on it. It's just dangerous. It's just, I don't know. And I think that this book is the first of, I think we're going to see in a trend in the next 5, 10 plus years talking about the horrors of AI. I mean, we always joke about how XYZ is Black Mirror. Oh, that's such a Black Mirror thing. But even the concepts that are in Black Mirror, if anyone's ever watched that show, it's not really fantasy anymore, right? These things are things that are on the precipice of actually happening right now. And that horror is real. And
it's really permeating just like every part of life.
Literally.
And it's starting to become unavoidable. And it's like every single app that we use, like there's no more boycotting apps that use AI because they're all doing it. And I think we just have to become aware of the ones who are at least being transparent and let you opt out of things. That's how I see it because like it's everywhere and no one's going to stop. And no matter how much we speak up about it, it seems like nobody's willing to actually completely get rid of it. Like even my husband's company, he works for a plumbing company. There's like 6 people who go do plumbing jobs. They now do AI phone calls to book things. And it's a mess and it's bad and it's not even working. And I'm like, what are we, like every single little we're taking jobs away. Like it's just kind of ruining everything. So sorry. Back to the book. What was your favorite scene? AI scares me. Help.
No, literally. Favorite scene. I really loved at the beginning watching them like her like initially trying to use the controller to
That's my favorite.
It was so funny and I loved like watching her like kind of like try to throw him on the ground and like it was just I don't know, it was a good time.
Yeah, anytime Julia was like struggling like in the first half of the book was fun. She's just such a fun character. When she was interacting with her two like on the first flight, the 2 guys, anytime she was like just trying to get back at them in any like petty way, I thought that was fun too.
I have less kind of specific scenes and just kind of moments that I basically couldn't fit anywhere else in kind of our discussion. So more like just bullet points. So my first bullet point is I just generally loved anytime we have like the 80s pop culture references. So the 2 bigs, of course, were Big Lebowski and Weekend at Bernie's. And that's something I think Paul Tremblay really does enjoy. He really enjoys kind of pulling pop culture, especially 80s pop culture references. It gives a lot of texture to his characters. So those are always really fun. I also really loved the references to math and being a math teacher. So for people that don't know, Paul Tremblay's day job is he's a middle school math teacher. And so I wrote a couple of funny quotes that I thought that made me laugh, and I put little flags in my pages for them. The first one he said was, "Writing is not computation and is not pattern recognition, as some narcissistic dolts claim. Otherwise, more mathematicians will be writing books, and who the hell wants that? Nobody." And then second one and there's more than just these 2, but the second one I really liked was, "It doesn't take a drafter or an architect to recognize a blueprint. It doesn't even take, say, a middle school math teacher. Not that there's anything wrong with being a middle school math teacher." And then the last thing I wanted to mention was the I guess plot twist. If you kind of are familiar with his stuff, is that our main character is Art Barbara.
I literally was like,
so Art Barbara. So for anyone that's not familiar, Art Barbara is a character that kind of comes up repeatedly in Paul's work. He was the main character in the Pallbearers Club, which also that was another book that I really struggled with. Like I just didn't love that book as well. And so I only read it one time. It took me a long time to get through it. And so as I was reading this, I was like, I really wish that I remembered more of the Pallbearers Club. And, if maybe someone else here who really loved that book and remembers how much of this character's backstory really accurately mimicked that character. And if not, are we just kind of reusing the same kind of name, or is this really kind of the same individual? I don't remember if there was an Isabel character in Pallbearers Club. I don't think so, but there was a couple of moments where I was like, these names sound familiar, because I think early in the book, someone said Mr. Barbara, And then later on, someone mentioned the first name Art, and I was the Cynthia Eriva meme where I'm like, where is that? That's something deep in my brain. Why do I? And then we got the big reveal. His name's Art Barbara, and that's when it clicked. And I said, that's for sure the Paul Bears Club. I had to double check my work to make sure, but that was really cool. And I read his afterword, or his I guess the acknowledgments, and he happened to mention that he thinks that this is probably the last time he's going to appear in one of his works. But he said that he was in what else was it?
Horror movie.
Oh yeah, I never read that. I didn't read that one. So
he said, I'd like to imagine that the thin kid from my horror movie, or my novel horror movie, is also named Art Barbara.
That's great.
Yeah, so so this is my favorite Paul Tremblay. It's actually in my top 10 favorite books of all time. I'm obsessed with this book. I love everything about it. I never recommend it to anybody because people hate it and then it makes me sad. So that's something I really didn't like about this book, is the fact that it felt like an Easter egg, but it wasn't. It's not. Where'd my book go? Art Barbara is not in here. Like, this is not the same character. It's just the same name.
I didn't think.
And I think that pisses me off because
Yeah.
I felt gooped and gagged. I was like, oh my God, you took Art Barbara and put him in this book. This is diabolical. This is crazy. And then I read a couple more like the next page, it was literally like, oh, Art Barbara, she was Googling and she said, oh, Art Barbara, the only reference I can find of him is he's written in this book. So this book is inside this universe. It's not the same character. And there's no reason why it couldn't be the same character. Like, you could have easily taken this character and made him 60 years old and working in the mailroom and done this to him. But you didn't commit. You just like referenced it for those of us who are so obsessed with this book. And then you just took it back and it makes me so mad.
Yeah,
that would have been so cool. Just to just go all the way with it, and then pull reference. You have a whole book of references that you could pull. But I wasn't sure. I was like, I don't think this is the same character at all. But it would have been really, really neat if he just did that much extra to really connect the two. But I'm sorry, somebody was talking and I cut them off. Who was it?
I mean, I think I was saying something, but I don't know.
You
don't need to apologize. Like, it's so easy to just start talking at the same time. Paul Bears Club is also my favorite Paul Tremblay.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't really remember a lot of it. But Paul told me I'm in the club in case anyone but I couldn't remember enough details of like the specifics of his life to really remember if it was like the same person. Because I think this is set in New England area, which is where Paul Tremblay, he lives too. So like I was like, yeah, that probably. But then I was like, I don't remember. Oh, now I want to just read this book again, actually.
It's so good. It's also my favorite Paul Tremblay.
Oh my God, I love it.
What's happening? What's going on? That's so funny. Yeah, I remember really, and this is not, obviously we're not talking about Paul Bears Club, but I remember I really struggled with that one. I think I mentioned somewhere in our chat, on our IG chat, that it's not the sole reason, but one of the biggest things for me is I really tend to struggle with, very few exceptions, of books that cover really long time frames. So like any book that's like a generational book, or it's telling a story about someone's entire lifespan, or 10, 20, 30 plus years. I really love an intense weekend, or like a one night, or a really tight time frame. Because I just think that the pacing kind of stays pretty consistent and speedy, and it propels me through. And I remember that book was just like his entire life, and it slowed me down a bunch. But the content I remember really liking, but it just, the actual reading of it, I just kind of struggle with it. Maybe I could do with another reread, but my favorite Paul Tremblay is, and I've read this many times, is Cabin at the End of the World. That was my favorite. It's once again a hectic 2 days.
Yeah.
And then with a really similar ending, which I'm really excited to talk about when we get there, because I have thoughts about how we like to end our books. So, but
Madison, did you share a favorite scene?
Yeah, just kind of whenever Julie was trying to take back some of her control in the first half. Yeah.
I agree. That my favorite was the remote control stuff. I also really liked the scene. We didn't even really get a scene. We just got a mention of like those teenagers messing with art when he went into like the fast food little like tour he did, and they put a little crown on him. And I was like, why was that not a whole scene? Like, why this book in general? I guess I'll move on to the next question, which is what we would change about the book, because I do have
we do have a question about favorite quotes.
Oh yeah.
If anyone has any.
I don't have an answer.
No one
I
has
don't have an answer for that.
No, neither.
I'll come back to that one.
Okay.
But as far as I liked the scene and the reference that we got of the kids in the restaurant, and I wanted that to be the plot, and I thought that's what the plot was going to be when the book kicked off. With the initial pitch of the book was like a cross-country adventure. They were sitting on a plane for 6 hours. Like, it just wasn't, that's not what I expected it to be. I wanted scene by scene. I wanted exciting. I wanted silly moments. I've seen some people who love this talk about how like it was so funny, and I just didn't read it that way, and that's what I wanted. I wanted an adventure kind of story. So that's something that I would personally change about it.
I
have 10 other things though.
Has anybody ever seen Dogma?
I love Dogma.
I was kind of hoping it would be kind of, because that like, I kind of was hoping we were doing more of that, where like God comes to like Earth in a corporeal form, and then lives life. Because like the idea of that God was confronted on like the boardwalk and like had to go and was in the coma. I just thought that we would get more of like, I don't know, more of that, where, as you said, it was like, I also said in the chat that it was like, it was how many hundreds of pages of just describing somebody walking. It was walking or sitting on an airplane. And exactly, I wish that we got more moments. And that scene happened off screen, right? It happened like off the page. And then somehow that scene went viral, even though nothing happened in the video. I always hate that in books whenever an author writes something that has like a viral moment, but like it would never go viral in real life because it has like nothing happened. It's only important to us because we're reading the book about it. But I wish we had more fun and games in the fun and games section. I wish we were off of the plane. I wish we were like walking around the city. We never left the airport. Like most of the book, we're in an airport in some or a train station. I guess I'm unintentionally taking this turn for what I would change. I'm really sorry. I was just piggybacking. God, I don't go out very often. I'm never on lives. I'm never
My
like,
social skills are questionable.
I'm really sorry.
You're fine.
The other thing, okay, so we're talking about like, we're obviously for sure in spoilers. So what would I change? Of course, there's all those pieces. I wish we did more with the outside world. I wish that it was less of just we're walking around. But we haven't talked about it yet very much, but I want to talk about the ending. Okay, so if I'm off track, correct me. He falls off the building and his head splits open, and then the evil goo in his brain eats the world. Okay. So.
Maybe.
So, hold on. Okay. If we're going to go with the wacky Little Shop of Horrors world-ending ending, we needed to build those stakes earlier, because it being mentioned as a joke one time 150 pages prior to the ending was not sufficient to really build the stakes. I don't think that it was a satisfying way to end the story. And if we were building in that kind of, in like the world of like Goofy, like, and camp, I would have been all for that. Cabin at the End of the World had also like a world-ending ending as well, but we also were building that the entire book. This felt like a writing exercise. Let me just experiment with what if the world ends, and then we never sort of went back in a second pass to sort of really build that into the rest of the story. And I was disappointed by that and really confused. And I don't hate a weird the world ends and an evil blob takes over ending, but it had nothing to do with the rest of the book. It just felt tacked on, and I would have loved for that to have been developed if we're going to go into such a kooky way. Like, if we're going to go into such a kooky direction, give that to me the rest of the book. Sorry. But that's kind of that's one of the biggest things that I would love to have seen different in a different. Was it the end of the world? Yeah, they all got eaten by the goo. That was the end of the book.
It was kind of like the idea was the women were walking away, and it was like they were laughing, and their laughter would end soon, and your laughter will end soon too. So I think the implication is it's the end of the world. I also think maybe there's just the idea that it's the end of a simulation. And I like an ambiguous ending, and I feel like this had that, but I would have liked an answer in some capacity because there were so many references to like, is this a simulation? And we never really got answers if it was, and if it was, like you could tell us that it was, and I think that would have been a fun ending. Is if like the whole thing kind of busted and broke down, and the gray goo was like a part of the.
Yeah, I think we could have had an answer without an over explanation and still left it ambiguous, but given us a little bit more. I do think a lot of my problem with this, not that I had a problem with like the references to other media, but as somebody that like my experience with Weekend at Bernie's is the Drake and Josh episode where they like spoof it. So like
I never saw. I don't know that one.
It's just like a famous kid that gets like hit in a prank and then has a premiere, so they're like making her act like she's awake and participating in all this stuff. So like that's my experience with Weekend at Bernie's, and like a lot of the other stuff, like I think the goo is like referencing something else, and I'm like I'm not aware of a lot of this stuff, and I feel like he relied on knowledge of things like that, not as like just like slightly too much, not like completely, but yeah.
I kind of agree with like, I wish it would have been a camp book and a camp ending, or a book full of commentary and then the ending had some kind of commentary. I wish we would have gotten like the campy road trip and he had a lot of like interactions, because the ending felt very campy to me. It reminded me the ending of the Blumhouse movie Truth or Dare, which was a really bad movie. It was goofy the whole way through, but then the ending was just like kind of open-ended and ambiguous, and it was fine. But I wish the ending would have had a little more commentary or reasoning behind it. Well, I really wish that the movie.
I don't remember the ending of Truth or Dare. I just remember that it was awful. The movie was so bad. It was so bad.
You look at their face and you get infected too, and if you don't do the Truth or Dare, you die. And they were in this group, and then she posts a YouTube video. So
that's right.
Spoilers. She posts a YouTube video, so then the whole world is infected.
It was like a worse version of Smile.
Yeah, no, it was really bad, and like the face that they get is like a bad Snapchat filter. It was a really awful movie. It's not a recommendation.
Yeah,
it did remind me of the ending of this a little bit.
I don't think I've ever heard of this movie, so
it's really bad.
Don't look into it. Don't. You shouldn't. Truly, I can recommend you 10 better horror movies, like 10 campier horror movies. Just ask me, and I'll put the list.
Okay, something else I didn't love about it is like her mom wasn't very much part of the story, and I just feel like as like the owner of this entire business, like her not ever coming back or being a part of it was kind of weird to me. I think there were too many characters that didn't really mean anything. Like we were just like meeting a bunch of different people who were like, I don't remember who this person was at the company or why they mattered. Like anybody could have been the whistleblower, anybody could have done anything, and it didn't really matter. Like suddenly halfway through the book, we had like Lisa, this journalist who was like on the journey with her, and I don't know, she didn't really matter to me. I don't think the side characters made as much of an impact as I wish they had. I would have changed Art Barbara to be actually Art Barbara. I would have changed, I don't know if like the finding Isabel part really landed for me, because it was like this mystery that was like, you have to find her, and eventually we realized it was Isabel and it was a childhood friend. And I kind of like where the story went with him climbing up to the top and being at the same place that she died. I'm sure there was some metaphors and references within that of like climbing to the top and then you have your demise and whatever. But I just don't know that it really worked for me, because I don't know what finding Isabel really meant or what it accomplished, but did it mean like he had to find his memory of Isabel, or he had to find the location she died, like what that really meant to him and why that was such a driving force of his entire sections, because it didn't mean that much to me. I don't know if anybody...
I kind of interpreted it as like it was his final task he needed to do, because he did have a stroke that like led him to this, and I kind of like took it as his last thing he needed to do to like be at peace before he died. Yeah, but like I still don't think that was very I don't know. Like, I wasn't obsessed with the way that it was done, but that's kind of how I interpreted it.
I also don't want to say I would change. Sorry, I just regarding Amelia, I didn't like the ending that she watched her son die because she already thought he was dead, and it made me feel just really bad. But that is the way the book wanted me to feel. So I don't know if that's a fair critique, but just Julia not prepping his mother in any way that he was still alive, not like not her getting any type of closure, thinking he's already dead, finding out he's alive, and then watching him die in front of her, and then we don't get to hear from her. There's no impact from that other than just me feeling bad. I don't like it.
Yeah, I feel like there was a part where I thought that Isabel was his mom, and that's why she called her and was like trying to get her involved. And I was like, maybe that's how it's connected. And then we like actually get the Isabel stuff, and I'm like, I don't understand why his mom needed to be put through this.
Yeah. And also like obviously it was a traumatic event. He witnessed his childhood friend. We were kind of unsure on ages, but I'm pretty sure they were children when this happened. Although there were times where I was like not sure if like we were getting one memory of them as children, then one memory of them as like college friends. Like, so there were some times where like the wording or the descriptions made them feel a little bit more mature than they really were. But then I'm pretty sure we stayed in like childhood. Like, obviously that was a traumatic thing to see, but why that was like the key to him having death closure, right? Is he's, he experienced it, he lived it. Why does he need to remember it before he can die? Like, I wasn't sure why that in itself was. I mean, he's what, 60? He's likely had 50 plus more years of meaningful life experiences.
Yeah, exactly.
Why was this the keystone moment? We didn't really get an answer, and I was waiting for like, oh, this is why it's so important, and we never got that.
I have this question on here just in case anybody in the chat wanted to ask anything. Not that we would have answers, but I just thought I would put it out there in case there was anything that you just wanted to leave out there that's like, I don't really get why we were doing this.
Yeah, I do think he like is like he pushed her not on purpose into the thing. So I think it was just like extreme guilt that he never told anybody, because he had talked about like contemplating telling his mom, but he didn't want to put that on her. So I guess like that was just like so traumatic for him that he couldn't get past it.
Okay, this makes sense to me. Now, okay, I think this makes sense because like he maybe had to remember Isabel and go back to Isabel for the AI to have a moment. It wasn't maybe so much about him in closure, but it was more about the AI getting a human emotion out of him.
Which makes sense, but then why would they know? Because the whole thing about taking him to his the whole thing about taking him to his mom was supposed to be like so that he can be like his assisted suicide. And then that was a front because his mom thought he was already dead. So like, why would they know to take him to Providence if that was the case? Like, I think in theory that makes a lot of sense. And they could just be like, this is where he's from. Maybe something would pop up. Like, that's also an option. But now I'm more confused, I think.
I also wrote this down as one of my things that I was confused by why it mattered. Like, she told a long fucking story about going out at night and leaving her dad and her uncle and meeting this guy, and he was scary and he had an extra thumb. And I think it was just Paul Tremblay's like reason to write the term like AI slop within the book. He just wanted to fit that in somewhere, and he was like,
literally,
here's where it could fit. Like maybe there's some kind of implication that this experience of Julia's is the reason she is the way that she is, and maybe she's more careful in life because one time she did something dangerous. She met a scary guy with an extra thumb, but like I really don't know why this mattered or why it was in the book.
I don't know if having an extra thumb on anybody would make it to my second worst day of my life.
Right?
And by I don't know, I mean it definitely would not.
Wait a minute. Like you're just reminding me that we had that whole huge chunk in her character introduction about ranking her years, and then like we never got it ever again. You're right. Like she happened to mention it to Lisa once about I rank my years, and then like once again we never like
that was
at the very least,
and that was it.
At the very least, if we're gonna be campy and we're gonna end with the world being swallowed by goo, she could have ended with like, well, this was the worst year of my life or something.
So like stupid at the end.
Bring us back to the camp of it all, because you're right. There was some themes that we like started to be introduced to, and then like we fell off of. And also, I myself have never seen The Big Lebowski. And so I was curious if anyone here has, if more themes of that movie were present in the themes and structure of this, because I just don't know, because I would imagine there has to be. So does anyone have any thoughts about that?
Well, yeah, there was a little reference in it where I don't have any insight, but there was a reference, right, where she was saying he had an extra toe, or there was a severed toe or something like that in Weekend at Bernie's, right? And so somebody was like, why was there an extra thumb and not an extra toe? But I don't know how
I don't know. I haven't seen any of it. Like, I was very much in the dark for all of these references.
Okay, we can run back to this one really quick. Madison, do you have any favorite quotes that you had from the book?
No.
Nothing stood out to you?
No.
Anybody else? I only have one.
I have one.
Okay, go ahead. And I'll find
mine. It was on page 59. And it was one of the first kind of introductions we had to Bernie's perspective after he kind of like actually got up and started to move. And he was describing his environment. And I just thought this was so neat. He described it as, it's an awful place, blighted not by neglect, but from overuse. A piece of paper thinned by repeatedly erased pencil marks. Oh, I thought that was so cool. So,
mine is on 315, and it's just when it's a description of his injury. For some reason, I don't like. Obviously, there's so much horror in here, right? Like, this is a horror book for sure. There's horrific things. That's horrifying, the idea of not being in control of your mind, but there wasn't very much horrific imagery to me. So I think the most that it did was when it was describing him. It said, his previously clear skin is mottled and bumped with carcinosis, I don't know that word, of purple and red veins. The plate tectonics of his skull are warped and shifting, rearranging the Pangea of his head. I just thought that was really great.
Crazy.
Pangea of his head.
And then at his crown, the skin is a witch's cauldron of bubbles and boils. His stitches poke up like fly hairs from the incision area. I was like, ew.
Yeah, there were definitely moments that I like both of the quotes that you just said, like I remember them. I think they were really good ones, but I just like when I read, they don't like end up sticking with me. And then I did like whenever he made fun of math teachers because he was a math teacher. Like I thought that was funny too, but yeah.
I wish we got more of the body horror, and it's like I always love that. I always want more. And so when we started getting to the very end where like his body is like giving up, and we were getting a lot of that really like delicious like description of his like he was describing his flesh, but it was like really the gauze like falling off of his head. I was just like more. But by then we were at the very last of the book, and we were going to get a whole lot more, and then we ended on goo. So.
Oh, I should have grabbed a copy of Pocket Knife Kitty, but if you guys want to read the most disgusting descriptions, Shannon wrote this nasty little book called Pocket Knife Kitty. It's so gross. Yeah. And so it makes sense that you would have wanted more.
There it is. It's on my little nightstand. It's pretty gross.
It's pretty gross.
It's not that bad.
It's pretty gross in a fantastic way.
My book, my book coming out next year is not very much of that at all. So for anyone that was really interested in the body horror, a lot less of it. So, but maybe in my edits, we're doing edits in the next 2 months. Maybe I'll shoehorn some more in because I always want more. So.
Okay. Second to last question. Will you read this author again? Did this turn you off? I feel like for a lot of people in the book club, this was their first time with Paul Tremblay, and I don't think this was the best example, but also, it's hard to recommend any of his books, so I understand if you don't want to pick him up again. For me, this is top 5 favorite authors, so of course I will continue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think A Head Full of Ghosts is a really good entry point, and I know that's what everyone says because it's like, I don't think it was his first, but I think it was his first like real, I forget what his first book was called. I've never actually read it, but it was his like first book that kind of blew up. And I think that is a really straightforward plot. It doesn't venture too into the weird, and it's about a family. And I think if anyone's going to read him again and they haven't been introduced already, I would always start with that. But yeah, of course, like I'm going to keep reading his stuff because I love his work. Even when I don't always connect, I always love how he put the book together. So yes, for me.
Yeah, absolutely. Whenever I read Horror Movie and Paul Bear's Club in the same year, and they were both like in my top 10 of the year. And I think Paul Bear's Club was my favorite. So yeah, I'm not, and I think there's just something about the way he writes just like really works in my brain. I think the reason this book was a higher rating for me was specifically, and I do think I'm going to drop it to 3.5. But I think it's like his writing specifically that like really, I don't know what it is, but it just works. And I think if somebody else wrote this book, I wouldn't have like the same way, just like a different writing style. I don't think I would have liked it as much.
Yeah, I love Paul Tremblay, and I don't think other people could write his books. I think it has to be him, for sure. So,
Madison, what's your rankings of all of the ones you've read?
Paul Bear's Club is top for me, and then Horror Movie probably. What's the one that got made in the Cabin at the End of the World? And then this one probably, and that's what I've read by him.
Did anybody else read Survivor Song?
Yeah, that was terrible.
That's the only one I haven't read, but I didn't really like Disappearance at Devil's Rock.
Oh yeah. I didn't like that one either. It's so funny how like this is my favorite author, and also I didn't like half of the books that I've read of his.
he did a short story with like one of the Amazon ones, and I gave it 1 star. Like I did not like it, so I don't know, but
I think for me it's just he has hits and misses for me personally, but the hits are so aggressively hitting me that everyone kind of like, for me, my top 2 are Cabin at the End of the World and A Head Full of Ghosts, and they're so good that even the ones that are misses for me, like I just go, oh, that's okay, like I don't mind, right? Like that's okay. Everyone has, everyone can make mistakes. So
something that's fun about him is I feel like you can never guess what he's going to come up with next, because none of his books are very similar. They're all so uniquely him, and I could not guess at all like what his next novel is going to be. I couldn't even predict like what the heck it's going to be. I think if I were to recommend, if this was your guys' first time with this, people in the chat, what I would actually recommend you do next, if you want to read a full-length novel, I would say A Head Full of Ghosts. I feel like this is the most like objectively acceptable book of his. But what I would actually say for you to do is pick up one of his short story collections. I think The Beast You Are is so good. Like there's some really bad stories in here, but there are some 5-star, like literally some of the best short stories I've ever read in here. So if you were reading this and you were like, oh, I wish it was a little shorter, I wish it was a novella, it could have been a short story, this is a really good place to go next. And then from here, I feel like based on the stories you like and don't like, you can decide from there where you want to go with his future novels. That would be my personal advice. And since we're in recommendations, my final question, my favorite question, is whether you liked or didn't like Dead But Dreamy of Electric Sheep, what else would you recommend somebody to read or watch after this? Besides Weekend at Bernie's and Blade Runner.
I have a movie recommendation and 2 books.
Perfect.
I think Bring Her Back is probably the closest thing I've watched to this. It's devastating. It's about grief. I would recommend it, but I'm also probably never going to watch it again. And then for books, it's pretty easy. I think Intercepts by TJ Payne. And then Annie Bot, just like the autonomy and stuff. Yeah, that's like one of the easiest ones to compare to this.
So Intercepts is like a corporation that's doing experiments on people and putting them in sensory deprivation tanks to unlock these like human abilities, and then they start to come for them. So this one, incredible. So this is sci-fi horror. I think if you wanted like the gross stuff of this, Maggot Screaming by Max Booth III. This is
Max published my first book. That's amazing.
Really? That's so fun.
Yeah, that's Max owns Ghoulish Books, my first publisher. That's crazy. How fun. Sorry, I'm so sorry.
No, you don't need to be sorry. So there's a corpse buried in the backyard, and they dig it up, and it turns out they're maybe versions of themselves. So that is very gross. Like that is. And then also this wasn't my favorite, but Full Immersion by Gemma Amor is following somebody who is like in a trauma like psychology thing, and they're hooked up to an AI machine, and we're following her inside her memories, trying to like process stuff. I got this recommendation from Elizabeth from Reading Riley. And then I haven't finished this book. Sorry, I'm just like yapping so much. Fabulous Bodies by Chuck Tingle is following somebody that takes a job transporting a body that is supposed to be dead. And then the dead body wakes up. And this one is very campy. It is the traveling to different things, silly situations going on. There's some body horror in here, but yeah, I'm like pretty far in and really liking it. So those are my recommendations.
I have that one on my TBR.
I accidentally showed my hand earlier. I mentioned this a little bit ago, but if you, for anyone that hasn't kind of ventured into the genre, if you're into like techno horror that explores the slippery slope of like AI. If you haven't watched or seen any Black Mirror as a television series, it's an anthology series, so it's not every episode is a different story with different characters, so you can kind of really pick one at random. Ideally, you should watch them in order, because sometimes they'll introduce a certain tech in like season 1 that comes back in season 2 in a different story, but the idea is that you should already understand how it works because you've seen it. So if you're into a TV recommendation, and also this is a general recommendation, if you like the combination, if you like kind of the literary writing and the approach to writing scene and setting and character of this book, and you also really like the experimental form and the body horror, I recommend anything by Eric LaRocca. So if you were like, I want more of the gross body horror, but I still want that beautiful writing, Eric LaRocca he writes so much. He has and they're all very short books. They're all like novellas or just slightly larger than novella length. So you can kind of really absorb a lot of his stuff in a short period of time. So those are kind of my thoughts.
There's another one that's similar to Black Mirror, and it's Love, Death, and Robots. It's on Netflix, and it's like animated episodes. None of them are connected, but a lot of it has to do with technology and stuff like that. And I some of them are really good. Some of the best animation I've ever seen. They're all very different, though, have wildly different ratings on the episodes.
Also, Eric LaRocca was there was a book I couldn't think of, and it was You've Lost a Lot of Blood, which is like kind of like tech focused.
I was literally just gonna say, like, Eric LaRocca is such a good recommendation. I can't believe I didn't think about that. There's this one cover with a red and green cover that that I would recommend. That one's so good. There's like one, it's like kind of connected. It's like short stories, but it's all kind of connected from what I remember. And there's one that's like really long in there, and it was so good. I loved it. I would also recommend, this one is a different vibe. This is probably more for a recommendation for people who like Weekend at Bernie's, and that's Dial A for Aunties, because
I forgot about that book.
in here, wait, let me make sure. Okay, there's a dead body in here that they have to like haul around this wedding weekend. It's so silly and it's so fun, and it's like a little bit of romance too. It's so good. I love that book. And then this is Where They Wait by Scott Carson. This is sci-fi horror. It's one of the only sci-fi horrors I've given like 4 stars or above. And there's basically this app that convinces you to kill yourself. That's the theory. And then I'm so glad a couple people mentioned Immaculate Conception, because I didn't know if I was just thinking of it, because it's, again, one of the only sci-fi horrors that I've ever liked. But it has some AI and a lot of art stuff in here. And I feel like it has a similar kind of tone that's like slower than you expect it to be. And it has really interesting commentary throughout in here. So that's my like number 1 recommendation. And I want to reread that. I think about it all the time.
Yeah, it's a good one.
And now I'm going to go through all of these comments later and make sure that I've read everything that everyone's recommended, because I literally love when people come together and like spark different ideas in different minds of like, oh, this book was kind of similar. This movie was kind of similar. Like, I love getting to find things that have through lines. And someone also mentioned a nonfiction, which, what was it called? Empire of AI, I feel like.
That's one I saw a lot, yeah.
So I think that's probably one that I will check out. There's also one called Code Something that I was thinking about reading this month. I don't like to read too much about things that bum me out, but I think I need to. Like, I need, unfortunately, I need to learn how much AI is really destroying things so I can be even more of a voice against it because it horrifies me every day. Thank you so much for everybody for joining us today. Like I said, next month we're talking about We Don't Talk About Carol, which is a mystery. Actually, let me quickly pitch the idea. There's a woman named Sydney. She discovers a photo of her aunt Carol who looks similar to her, and she turns out she went missing. She was one of 6 black girls to go missing from their North Carolina neighborhood in the 1960s. Our main character, Sydney, is dealing with infertility. She's going through a lot personally, and I think that's going to be a bulk of the story too, just in case anybody is doesn't want to dive into that type of stuff. But then she also decides to solve this cold case, and she's a journalist, and she's going to take it on. And I'm really excited to talk about this in a month. Thank you all for being here, and we will see you next time. Bye!